Now, next up, now this is where it gets interesting because now we got a dynamic duo coming up. So now they're down to 3 minutes each, right? So good luck, right? You know what I'm saying? All right. Our next speakers, we have Gwyneth Harris and Christa Quintana, who will share their experience designing the trellis. So the trellis is a site-specific outdoor classroom here at Silo City, and the trellis was a collaboration between the University at Buffalo, Go Bulls, Schools of Architecture and Planning, and Rigidized Metals. Gwyneth Harris is an architectural designer with Troutman Associates. She has a passion leveraging design to create sustainable, resilient communities. And Christa Quintana is a project designer with CPL and a BAF board member. Her experience building site-specific installations with her partner has sparked an interest in the ways that design can elevate everyday materials to new heights. Give it up for our dynamic duo of Gwyneth and Christa.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Alex. So the trellis concept and design was originally the brainchild of Elizabeth Gilman and Mitchell Messi. It is a site-specific installation right here, like right over there, that used an overrun of materials, specifically stainless steel tubing, to create this willow trellis. I'd like to recognize that it's taken a huge, enormous team of people to bring this project to fruition, including Laura Garofalo, Joyce Wong, and Nick Rakovich, who were the leading professors. So there are a lot of ways that the project engages with the site that you can't see. We used a method called oogle culture, which actually created these carbon sinks out of logs, and we used plywood to stifle out this invasive monoculture of Japanese knotweed, and that was a main goal of the design. That's not really visible from the finished photos. The form of this project began as a dome, and 3 funnels were introduced, basically to limit the span of the arches, and also create some serendipitous, intimate moments around the edge. So when we began the spring 2020 semester, we thought we would develop the design and construct it all then. However, the pandemic hit in March, just as we were wrapping up these lovely shop drawings. And these drawings were a way for us to figure out how to take the concept design into something that we could actually fabricate and install. And along this process, we had to make a series of design decisions. Through this, we cataloged every single arch because they all were unique, and they fell into 3 major categories. Flat arches, coplanar arches, which are showing right now, and the main ridge beams, which are the primary structure. We also tackled the method to connect these pieces. We had to add a second method of lateral bracing, which was a second run of diagonal piping around the perimeter. And we developed a technique to connect all of the pieces. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough money to buy mechanical connections, so we ended up using a rope lashing method. And I'm going to turn it over to Gwyn to tell you more about construction.
All right. So construction finally started in the fall semester. It was slow to start. There were a lot of extra logistics around working in person, even though we were outside because COVID was in full swing. So our studio was divided into 2 teams, or pods as everyone was calling them at the time. We had the Orioles and the Blue Jays, which were forbidden to mingle or interact. I think our site super, Nick Rakovich, was trying to instill some sort of fabricated rivalry to keep us apart. He's also very into baseball. So we wore masks at all times in addition to our regular PPE. And we filled out this battery of questions on our phones every morning to get a clearance pass to access the job site. And I'm being a little snarky, but I'm truly grateful that everyone took these precautions seriously. There was this looming constant threat that the school or the state could shut us down at any time, and then we wouldn't get to finish the project, and we'd have to go sit inside behind Zoom screens, just like everybody else. So the privilege of being outside and working on a real project was clearly an excellent motivator. I particularly enjoyed visits from various wildlife and spectacular sunsets, which you can kind of see in this photo, just like the sun on the buildings, on the silos as it's going down. Very good for the soul and mental health. And for somebody who had never been really on a job site before, this hands-on building experience was a valuable introduction to many aspects of architecture beyond conceptual design, which tends to be the focus in school. So communication and coordination were really, really important between the two teams. Otherwise, we wasted time trying to figure out where the other team left off or needlessly redoing work again. And scheduling and sequencing also came into play. So while one team erected the primary structure, the other team shaped and spliced and carefully labeled all the different unique segments of tubing that Christa was talking about for the secondary structure so that those pieces were ready to go and the installation team wasn't left waiting around. And I will never underestimate the value of thorough detailing and collaborating with experienced contractors and craftspeople about constructability. In a digital model, dozens of steel tubes can be cut and welded to meet perfectly at a single point in the middle. In reality, that's not possible, especially when the welders are a bunch of amateurs. So we had to adapt and rethink quite a few details in the field, notably the point where the ridge beams come together. Sorry, I've run over slightly. Wade Georgie, shout out, was indispensable in helping with some of those more complex overhead welding bits. And I just want to say, since graduation, these experiences and takeaways have been incredibly helpful in my working life. Design is not always glamorous. Sometimes it's tedious and technical, but having this firsthand experience and understanding why it's so important and that it really pays off in the end makes it all worth it. So shout out to everybody who helped make this project possible. It's super cool. Everybody should check it out. And I'm so glad I got to be part of it.
Thank you, Gwyneth and Christa. Awesome job there, not only on the presentation, but the project itself. So let's give it up to them.